Okay, thank you for the invitation. I'm very pleased to be here. What I want to focus on is, of course, revolution takes place in the streets and on the campuses. But as historians have said, revolution also takes place in the ways in which it is narrated. The other way to say is that how it is also distorted. So what I'm going to focus is that how this revolution or uprising has been distorted. And therefore, the title of my presentation is How Hindu Orientalism Negates the True Meaning of the 2024 Revolution. And also the significance of the name itself, 36th of July. To name the 2024 Bangladesh uprising as 36 July is simply brilliant. Indeed, it is poetic because it breaks the rule to extend the month beyond its duration of 30 days until the goal of the uprising, shifting, expanding, evolving, but seldom compromising, is realized. It is like a lover waiting for the beloved in the promised evening to arrive, but the beloved doesn't. However, for the lover, despite its end, the evening continues in the insistent hope of the beloved arriving soon enough. In fact, whenever the beloved arrives, it marks the evening, or as the beloved arrives, so does the evening. There are two main ways in which to read this poetic idea of extending the month, which was floated in a Facebook post by Muhammad Shamsul Alam, a Bangladeshi based in America. First, the audacity with which the post both displayed and beaconed to the hope. The short post began as follows: July has been extended until victory. An early comment on Alam's post read, Inshallah, fi amanillah. Others commented as follows: May Allah accept it, and Ameen. The audacity of hope was supranational and territorial, as it connected America, where Alam was based, and Bangladesh, where protesters of many shades, ideologies, and strata took to streets in Dacca, Chittagong, Rajashahੀ, Jahangirnagar, and elsewhere. But the connection was diachronic as well, as it linked the living and the dead alike. It seemed as if the ruh of the poet Faiz Ahmad Faiz was singing from a place with no name, hence from everywhere. Tumaaye ho na shabe intezar guzri hai, talash mein hai sahar bar bar guzri hai. Neither have you come, nor has this night of waiting ended. In your search, the dawn has passed by again and again. This audacity of hope in Faiz's couplet was evident in the marches in the streets and on university campuses across Bangladesh, declaring loud and clear, July will continue until the dark night of tyranny continues. Second, the idea of extending July beyond its routine duration is grounded in the sheer resolve to continue the resistance and defy the terror let loose everywhere. In mutual embrace, hope and resolve in turn flows from as well as solidifies the faith. Innamal asra yusra, indeed with hardship comes ease. Historically, July 36 is part of the genealogy of the 19th century collective action, traceable to the Farazi movement inspired by Haji Shariatullah and continued by his son Dudu Miah, whose real name was Mohsenuddin Ahmad, and who died in Dhaka. And the struggle for dignity and justice by Haji Shariatullah and Dudu Miah is comprehensible only in the wake of valiant fight against colonial rule by Siraj-ud-Daulah and his subsequent execution by the British and their puppet, Mir Jafar. The martyrdom of Abu Sayyid must be seen in line with this stream of politics in the subcontinent after the British rule. Abu Sayyid's martyrdom is truly defining and iconic well beyond Bangladesh because it reflects an alternative ethical politics, one which is not yet recognized. As an example of a student movement, contrast it with the self-immolation in 1990 by Rajiv Goswami, a Brahmin student of Delhi University and an aspiring career politician, which unleashed countrywide protest. Against the Mandal reservation, the 20-year-old Goswami set himself on fire. But the self-immolation was pure drama. The night before the farcical suicide, Goswami told his mother, and I quote, "Hum sirf tamasha karne ja rahe hain. We are simply going to stage a drama." Hence, he did not die. But the place where he staged the drama was named as Qurbani Chowk, Sacrifice Chowk. In sharp contrast, facing the police bullet with both his arms wide open, Abu Sayyid bared his chest. Displaying exemplary courage, he stood his ground even as he was shot 4 times point blank. Abu Sayyid's family refused making any statue of Abu Sayyid. And unlike Goswami, who the night before his fake suicide told his mother that this was all a spectacle or tamasha, 2 days before he embraced martyrdom, Abu Sayyid's Facebook post on 14 July declared, "Regardless of whether it is unpleasant, I will not hesitate to call justice, justice, and injustice, injustice." As it is well known, in April 2024, if not before, Abu Sayyid had signaled the sources of his thought and ethics as stemming from the repertoire of Islam. My exposition on the naming of the July Revolution and the significance of Abu Sayyid's martyrdom will not please the parrot supporters of the world's largest democracy, India. Commentators in India peddle stories based on the so-called insider perspective from Bangladesh that the July 36 uprising was a jihadi coup. For India's Economic Times, the July uprising means promoting anti-India terror. Such responses from India, the regional hegemon and aspiring superpower, are not surprising at all. And the so-called Indian liberal left too has historically been part, even an advocate of Hindu nationalism masquerading as Indian nationalism. In chapter 2 of The Origins of Totalitarianism, Hannah Arendt speaks of leftist anti-Semitism. It is long due to speak of leftist Islamophobia in India well before the partition of the subcontinent. Since currently left is often hyphenated with liberals, its figures include such intellectuals and politicians as Nehru, Sitaram Yechuri, and award-winning radicals like Arundhati Roy. In fact, the earliest figure is Raja Ram Mohan Rai, a stooge or chamcha of the British Empire who, after the martyrdom of Siraj-ud-Dawla, openly welcomed the British rule and designated Muslims as enemy. Let us recall that the Hindu merchants happily collaborated with the East India Company, without which there would be no Permanent Settlement Act of 1793. This act led to the pauperization of Bengal, particularly its Muslim plebeian. My argument is that any ethical, autonomous, and sovereign reading of the July 36 is impossible without liberation from the shackles of Hindu Orientalism. Hindu Orientalism is an episteme at the core of the Calcutta Hindu Bhadralok, but not limited to them. And it includes historians such as Dipesh Chakravarti, anthropologists like Nirmal Kumar Bose, and Nobel laureate Amartya Sen. Outside of Calcutta Bhadralok circle, example of Hindu Orientalism is Siddharth Vardarajan. The difference, if any, between Siddharth Vardarajan and Arnab Goswami is that Arnab expresses his Hindu Orientalism in anger, while Siddharth does the same with occasional smile. And I'm glad to note that he's listening. Hindu Orientalism shapes knowledge not only about India, but also about the subcontinent at large. In fact, about the West too. It is because of this Hindu Orientalism that left liberal Islamophobe in India or elsewhere either lack courage or imagination or both to ask the following question. Why is the world's largest democracy hosting the enemy of the mass uprising in Bangladesh? If it is hosting an autocrat, is India democracy in the first place? Notably, what is democracy? Periodic electoral campaigns as bloody spectacles? If so, has not anti-Islam been the center of all such campaigns at least since 1980s? Which democracy celebrates lynching of Muslims and bulldozing of homes? Well, India and Israel foremost. What else is the reason for India to grant visa to Taslima Nasreen or Tariq Fateh, but to legitimize Hindutva and spread hate against Islam? And by the way, they are called as intellectuals in Indian circle. Finally, to pay homage to the predecessor of the July 36 uprising, like Haji Shariatullah as well as its current actors such as Abu Said, is to mark the limits of nationalism as an emancipatory ideology. Haji Shariatullah was an anti-colonial thinker and activist, not a nationalist by any means. The fact that actors of the July 36 uprising spoke in favor of Palestine and carried banners to decolonize Gaza is remarkable. In some ways, they echoed the women-led Shaheen Bagh movement in India, a movement which was not asking for so-called inclusive nationalism, but instead demonstrating the underbelly of nationalism as an inherently ethnic ideology and practice. To conclude, for the goal of the revolution to actualize and to respect the value of martyrdom of the likes of Abu Said is to announce intellectual freedom from Hindu Orientalism, which is equally and also Western Orientalism. Thank you.